Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you my process to put Bondo on a panel. I'm going to walk you through how I feather edge everything out, how I put the Bondo on, sand everything down, get it ready for primer. Okay, I'm going to be using this fender here, and there's a lot of damage on it. I'm just going to fix the area right in here. I'll demonstrate the process I use. There's a few spots here where the paint was cracked, where I did a little bit of hammering on it. I'm going to take my angle grinder with a roll-lock disc, grind off where the paint is cracked, and then 80 grit on the DA, feather everything out. And I'm using a 36 grit roll-lock disc on the angle grinder. Next, I'm going to use 80 grit on the DA and do most of this area right in here. I don't need to take all the paint off, but I'm going to feather these edges out and then sand everything else out. Next, I'm going to use 120 grit on the DA and just go around the outside edges. All right, this panel is ready to put Bondo on, and the fender was clean before I started, so I usually don't use any prep saw and wipe it down before I put Bondo on. And whether you want to grind all the paint down, everything's a bare metal, or leave it like this and go over the paint, it's up to you. Both ways work. This is the way I've been doing it for years. Everybody has their own way of doing it. This is just the way I do it. So let me get some Bondo mixed up and we'll get that put on. And I was trying to get these edges kind of smoothed out a little bit, a little easier to feather. Okay, that looks good. Anywhere I'm going to have a pinhole, it's going to be on this edge because I did build it up a little bit extra, but we shouldn't be too bad. All right, I'm going to let that sit up and I'll get back on it. Now that the Bondo's dry, I can start sanding. I'm going to take 80 grit on my DA and just rough this out. And I try and stay away from these edges. So I'm just going to rough everything out till it's nice and smooth. by using 80 grit on a DA, I can get this roughed out pretty good. I don't use 36 grit. It'll put in deep sand scratches and you've got to get those out. Also, if you happen to get into this paint some, at 36 grit may go all the way down to the primer, and then you got a spot you're going to have to try and feather out. So 80 grit is the roughest I use. Next, I'll take 80 grit on the longboard and get it all blocked down. And also I want to avoid using the block on these edges, so I'll try and stay away from them. Next, I'm going to take 120 on the DA and I'm going to feather these edges out. Next, I'm going to use 120 on the block. Okay, I'm looking this over for pinholes, and there's a few right here, right where I said they'd be, where the Bondo was a little bit thicker and I didn't want to put pressure on it. No pinholes around the edges where you put a little bit more pressure on it and feather it out. So I'm going to take care of those real quick. I take a little bit of Bondo, a little bit of hardener, mix it with the razor blade. And I'm just going to put it in there and scrape it off. That's all you need to do. Maybe right there. Okay, while that's drying, I'm going to take 220 on my finish sander and finish these edges out. I'm going to put some guide coat on here. This is SEM 38203. This stuff will dry up in a matter of a few seconds. Go over it one more time lightly with the 120 on the block. Now I'm going to use 220 on the finish sander and lightly go over this whole area. This is ready for prime. Once I run over 220 with the finish sander, I don't have a need to block it down any smoother. You could go 180 and maybe eliminate the finish sander, but the finish sander I like for tapering these edges out, makes them nice and smooth, and it's plenty smooth for primer. Now what you should see when you're done is this cloudy edge where it's kind of transparent on the Bondo. Now it isn't so much here because, like I said when I started this video, there's a lot of damage in this fender, and this continues all the way down. So that's why it's kind of an abrupt edge right here, and if you see that, that'll tell you that it's not perfectly smooth. But for this demonstration, what I wanted to show was how you get a nice cloudy finish on this Bondo. Took care of the pinholes, don't have to come back over it. This is ready for prime. I hope this video was helpful, and like I said, this is just the way I do it. It doesn't mean you have to do it that way. Everybody has a little bit different take of how they want to sand stuff and finish, grind paint off, go over the paint. It really doesn't matter, but I get real good results doing it this way. Thanks for watching.